This is Coogan Cassius Rifle TV. We're in Leeds here on the eve of the Leeds show at First Direct Arena tomorrow night. With me I've got trainer Joe Gallagher, who has... Tell me your fighters on the bill, Joe.
I've just got one tomorrow night. I'm sorry to say, Coogan, just the one. But it's a big one in that. He may be small in size, but big in stature tomorrow night.
Stephen Smith, you know, I spoke to him earlier on, and you know, he has to adapt in a short space of time, the change of opponent. From a training point of view, what's that done for you?
It's been a nightmare. We had done our last spar on the Wednesday, absolutely broke it down, knew the kid inside out, and then we got to Cardiff on Thursday and told the opponent was out. The race was on them to find a suitable opponent, and like I said, we have that in Muniz. Twice fought for the world title. Style wise, on the front foot, comes with big wide hooks. Very game. He had a good win over Branco, a Cuban that fought at Beijing 2008, who was touted as a really good fighter in the Olympics. This kid's had a win over him. Like I say, he fought for the featherweight title against Gajdovic, who lost to Billy Dib twice. So he's a good solid fighter, only ever been stopped once, that was for the world title. So he's no mug, and like you say, it's a serious test tomorrow night for Stephen Smith. But that's what you expect for this level. Cougs, where we're at now, is fighting for the WBC silver belt, and like I say, we all said the other day, Paul Smith was 31 minutes away. Stephen Smith could be 47 minutes away from a trip to Japan and a fight for the world title. And for two brothers to do that within 5 days of each other is a fantastic achievement.
We had a slight situation today regarding the weight of Munoz. Jumped on the scales. I didn't spot it until...
Jumped, I thought he just stepped on and
stepped
off.
on the scales, stepped quite quickly off it, but obviously, you know, the scales didn't have a chance to settle to actually identify the proper weight.
No, well, at first he stepped on, and then he just quickly stepped off, and I just thought, oh, he's just lost his balance there. And I thought, no, they're trying to take that as a weight, and then next thing he jumped on again, and when he jumped on, Coogan nowhere to his weight. Like, there's the scales, his feet are there, half on and half off like that. And I thought, what's he doing here now? And all the time we was watching the weight going up and up and up, and then it got to 129 point something, and they shouted 9 stone 4, but it still kept on going up and up, and they got off, and he was waving, and I looked at Stephen Smith and went, I'm not having this. And then just him go up, and the kid went to go past me, and I went, oi, listen, back on them scales. And I went up to him, he's not 9 stone 4, he's more, get on it, them scales have to be stood still. And said to him, get back on the scales. Bit of a thing, he got on them, he was 11 ounces over, and when he got on them then, Coog, with everyone looking at us, his feet were still half on and off him, and I'm like, you're supposed to be making yourself heavier, but it was 11 ounces over after everyone announcing him first that it was 9 stone 4, and I thought, wow, I couldn't believe that. But like I said, at the end of the day, the kid went away, lost the weight, and he came back bang on, with like 5 minutes to go in the 2 hours that I'd allocated. So at the end of the day, listen, the shoe was on the other foot, and we were in Argentina and turned up late and turned up short notice, and the way they would have made Stephen Smith drop the weight, and rules are rules, Coog. But like I say, it was just a bit perturbed there that he nearly got through the net there. And like I say, I learnt lessons in New York when John Murray weighed in with Brandon Rios, and the Strokes Brandon Rios and his team were trying to use that day to get through on the weight on the scales. So like I say, it's just experience, Coogan, at the end of the day, and like you say, you've got to be watching all the time.
I mean, I'm not saying this is a common occurrence in boxing, but it does happen every now and again, doesn't it, where, you know, boxers are sort of coming in at this stage at semi-late notice and obviously failing to make the weight of the first attempt, and then they've got the 2 hours to obviously get the weight off.
I think because of the late notice and the flight coming, I think all he's basically got is flu. He's got some water retention in him still from the flight, and basically that was it, mate. Do you know what I mean? He had his boxes on, he didn't attempt to take him off, and when he came back and took his boxes off, he was only like 5 ounces over, and then he went away and did what he did, and he came back and made the weight. So you can understand, like you say, that, and not only that though, the scales in your bathroom, scales that you use, could be different to the boards, do you understand? And he's come over here, might not have had no access to any calibrated scales like the boards are, and maybe felt it was a little bit heavy on whatever scales his test weighted himself on, and like you say, tried to get away with it a little bit. But I was just a little bit surprised how quick they were to announce the weight at 9 stone 4, while the, as I call it, the weighing scale there on view for everyone was still going up and up and up and up, and still going up, and they announced it, and I'm like, I said, Stephen, I said, did you see that? He went, yeah, I seen it. I went, right, come on, let's go. And we went and sorted it out.
Great weekend for you. 3 of your fighters in action in
The 3B2s.
3v2s. Paul Smith, Callum Smith, and Callum Johnson also with a second round KO. So perfect night at the office for you Saturday.
Yeah, perfect night at the office for Callum Smith, Paul Smith, and Callum Johnson. Listen, them three and Jose Burton, the four of them are sparring really well, doing really well, and it was great to get Callum Johnson back with a win. He fought down in Lincoln, right close to his home, did 200 tickets at like 10 days notice, and he got a second round stoppage. Paul Smith, I feel sorry for Paul. I think Callum took the shine off Paul's performance. Now, I understand who Paul fought, and listen, everyone will say, but when you're warming up for a world title, you see many world-class prospects or contenders have these type of fights just as a warm-up, and Paul did what you would expect to do, go in there and take care of them within 2 or 3 rounds. And I was really pleased with Paul. He was in great shape, his shot selection was very good, and his finishing was spiteful and nasty, and that's good to see. And then Callum Smith, well, is the name on everyone's lips at the moment, isn't he? He was the kid with the Olympic heartbreak, and who would have thought his transformation to the pros would have gone so well? I didn't. He's averaging 2.2 something rounds a fight and 9 knockouts in 11 rounds, and the WBC supervisors getting excited about him, and what more can you say? Tobias Webb came out with a great game plan, and Callum came back after round 1, said a few things, adjusted and applied, and he went out and did the business then in round 2. I don't know, that Tobias Webb, he is some tough kid, and I tell you what, it won't be the end of him neither. He'll come back. He'll come back. There's something about him. His time, maybe not now, but he'll come again. Him and Frank Buglione will be a good fight.
I spoke to you, was it the day of the fight, wasn't it, in Wales, or the day before the fight rather, in Wales, and I asked you about whether you thought Tobias Webb was Callum's toughest test, and you said that Mendy and was it Acosta were tougher opponents for him, and we sort of said we'll leave it after the night to decide. But regardless of what you said, Tobias Webb on paper was a competitive fight for Callum Smith, wasn't it?
No, it was. The point I was making at the time, for Callum's inexperience, he was 7th, 8th fight fighting Mendy, who just drew the world ranked top 10 fighter. That was a real tough fight, and prize fighter champion. I think that was the bigger test, prize fighter champion, and Callum dispatched him in 1 round. People seem to forget that when you say he hasn't fought no one. So then when you look at Tobias Webb, who lost in a prize fighter type of format, you think, well, no, but listen, he came well prepared. Had a good game plan. Carl Ince and the team there had a good game plan. You can see what they tried to do, and some people say he lost the first round, some say it was even or whatever, but that shows then what I said on the day when I spoke to you, Coogan. If he is to be the bigger test, then we'll see the better the Callum Smith, who brought out the best in Callum Smith, and I was really pleased, and onwards and upwards for him now.
From a trainer's point of view, what do you look for now as in an opponent to step it up? Because it's not your fault or Callum's fault that these opponents that are put in front of him are being taken out so early and how convincingly that they're being taken out. But from a trainer's point of view, how do you look at it as in preparing him to do the 10 rounders and things like that? Yeah,
well, funny enough, I've just been sat with Stephen there now, and we're going through the WBC rankings and opponents possibly for Callum, but it's very hard. You just look at yourself, you see Naz the way Naz, I'm not saying Callum Smith's Naz, but when you've got a young precocious talent like that, it's like, do you just let it go and just see where we go? But at the same time, the other night I seen mistakes and errors that he did, and the same I did with Paul Smith. Paul did some bad errors in that fight. It only lasted, and I'm just like, them little things like, no, we're not ready, they're the sort of signs not ready. But I just feel, you got to remember when Callum first turned pro, we sparred Nathan Cleverly, Tony Bellew, Kyle Froch, Ishmael Salik, Kid Chocolate, Hassan Madam. That's great sparring for a kid starting off, and I think while we may struggle for opponents, we do have to get Callum going off sparring and start getting him going across the world, going back over to America with him sparring and getting rounds in against good solid fighters, gym fighters that can give him good rounds in sparring. He can get his education there ready then for the fights. There's some good sparring kids out there, but like you say, the kids in this country, Groves, Froch to Gale, they're on another level at the moment, and I don't think they'll be too keen for the sparring either. I know Carl Froch spars Callum, but we don't really want to do that much sparring because we're not that far away, like say 18 months away from competing there, but still a work in progress. But like I say, Coogan, it's hard to get the right type of sparring and the right opponents for him. We're very lucky in the gym. He has Callum Johnson and Jose Burton, kids that can give him rounds at the moment. So we'll just have to see. It's working at the moment. We'll just have to wait and see. But opponent-wise, well, we want to make sure that we don't bite off more than we could chew and get a little bit excited and get exposed. He's still a kid and he's only been pro less than 18 months. I think it's around 18 months now. So slowly.
We know he's got the British title his weight, but do you anticipate him fighting for that British title this year?
Callum?
Yes.
Listen, I have chats with the other Smith brothers about this and Liam, and it's like, Amir Khan never fought for the British title. Ricky fought for it once. I understand it'd be nice for Callum to fight for the British and win it, so all 4 brothers have won a British title, okay? But if it doesn't necessarily mean it's got to stop Callum from progressing. Some would say Callum's past that now at the moment. That's no disrespect to Paul. Paul's British champion, everything else, but Paul gives it up and Callum's there. Who's there for him to fight? There's no one for him to fight at the moment. Fran Bugnoli's just got beat. Rocky Fielding doesn't know what weight he's at. He's 6 pounds over. I suggest Rocky's got to be a light heavyweight. And then where do you go after that then? So if we've got to hang on, we might have the opportunity for that fight, may have missed Callum and he'd go on. But it's something you can always come back to at another time while we're ticking over. But I think Callum, maybe this year, he may, through his progression, have gone past British title level already.
Moving on to Paul Smith. Just over the last few days, just seen certain things on Twitter arguing the case whether Paul Smith has deserved or warranted his shot at the world title, his potential shot at the world title. What do you say to that?
Listen, he's in a governing body there that he was ranked very high in. I think it was 2 or 3. There's lots of fighters in the world. Rocky Balboa didn't deserve his shot at the world title against Apollo Creed. Lee Purdy didn't. You know, that's what boxing is. It's an opportunity, it's a chance of a lifetime, it's a dream, and fighters grab it with both hands and they go and do it. Paul Smith was given a chance now of fighting for the world title against Arthur Abraham. Lloyd Honeyghan, who would have thought he would have beat Donald Curry at the time? That's what it is, isn't it? And I think people have been very harsh on Paul. He's been around the game a long time. I think he's only got 3 losses. That's no big shame. 2 against one George Groves, another James DeGale, and they're all world class. So I just think that's a bit unfair on Paul. Paul's done what he's had to do. He's got 35 wins, I think it is. And I think, listen, there's other fighters out there with lesser records. And this is the thing in America. There's fighters out there fighting for world titles all the time that aren't worthy or fighting for titles. Golovkin, the kid that he fought last, whoever it was, Adamu, whoever, there's fighters out there that are fighting for world titles, but no one gives them as much stick. I just think there's a stick there that Paul's very black or white and he's very confrontational and he'll speak his mind, and I just think people, and in British boxing, I remember there was a time everyone was on Matthew Hatton's case, no one really liked Matthew Hatton and they were giving him stick. What for? The poor kid, just because he was Ricky's brother, and his fault he was getting opportunities for it and he worked hard and he shone through in the end. And I just think people are just too easy to beat Paul Smith over the head with a stick and be it all he wants, but he's there, and he's if you're talking Andre Ward, it's a different kettle of fish, but Arthur Abraham's a very fan-friendly fight, and I think Paul Smith can't do no worse than the last opponent that just fought Arthur Abraham. And I think Paul Smith's style with Arthur Abraham, it's all about style, it's a fan-friendly fight, and Paul will have his moments in that fight with Arthur Abraham. If he wins, what a great achievement it is. If he loses, so what? But all boxers want to do, no matter what level, is test themselves against the best in the world, whether you're Gavin Rees v Broner, Lee Purdy versus Devin Alexander, or Paul Smith versus Arthur Abraham, Gary Lockett versus Pavlik, Michael Jennings versus Cotto. There's been boxers time and time again in this country that have fought for world titles, and some would say deserving or non-deserving. But like you say, Paul Smith is in that situation there, and hopefully he gets it. And I just think people just want to pick on Paul for the sake of picking on Paul.
Do you think we live in a boxing environment now where, like I said, the fights you just mentioned there, arguably, you know, this case of whether fighters deserve certain shots, but it's all about rankings now, isn't it, Joe? And you know, it's not necessarily about earning the shot, but it's about putting yourself in a position to be given the shot, because like I said, there's been many fighters, you just mentioned two in Lee Purdy and Gavin Rees, who were ranked relevant enough for them to warrant them fights. So, you know, boxing has changed a little bit, hasn't it, from years ago, where not all the best fighters are necessarily the best champions in their weight. And
I say, we've got 4 governing bodies now, and different organisations work hand in hand with different sanctioning bodies, and that's just the way of the world. But it gives more fighters an opportunity and a chance to get up them rankings and fight for a world title. But Paul Smith, listen, like I say, I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, other fighters in the past, could you really call them world title fighters when you've seen him? Alright, and no disrespect to a fight that's just happened, but Stewie Hall versus Ward in the North East, would anyone say that was a world title fight? It happened, and it was billed as a world title fight. I'm not having a go here, but if people want to have a go at Paul Smith fighting Arthur Abraham, what did Ward do for his shot for Stuart Hall? Okay, so there's just one that's just gone through, and there wasn't not much stick given there for it. So that's just an example, and there's many more Cougans, many more over the years. I can't think off the top of my head, but I do feel, like you say, fighters, they go through the rankings, they get there. But look at Kell Brook. He's gone through a systems and a ranking that's made him a mandatory. And let's have a look at this. Kell Brook hasn't beat anyone apart from Sinchenko in my eyes. The Carson Jones of the world and all them ain't your top welterweights in the world to fight, but he's just beat what's been put before him, and he's the mandatory, and he's still fighting to try and nail that fight down. Yet someone else can just walk right in and get it. Say Paulie Malignaggi could pick a phone up to somebody else, and he could be Amir Khan's, he could be Timmy Bradley's. It's all about necessarily the fighter and the appeal and the selling of tickets more necessarily than the fighter that's more deserving of this. So it's like Fletcher now, he's been made a mandatory to Golovkin. Billy Joe Saunders beat him, so how's he managed his shot? Do you understand? So that's it. That's just
a case for Deontay Wilder as well, being put in against Devon.
No, definitely. Do you know what I mean? So that's how it is. So it isn't that people are making Paul Smith an example. If they say Paul isn't deserving one, well, how can you not say Anthony Crolla isn't? His last 3 fights, he's beat 3 former European champions and world champions, title challengers. Gavin Rees was world champion, European champion. Steve Foster, European champion and world title challenger. And John Murray, European champion, world title challenger. That's a great one of form. Then people say Crolla doesn't deserve a world title shot. Well, what does the kid have to do? Paul Smith, I agree, hasn't had the run of form with them last 3 that Crolla has. But he has got it, and he's saying, well, he doesn't deserve it either. So you're damned if you're doing, you're damned in. But isn't just fighters like I'm associated with that getting them opportunities, and some people on Twitter should know better by saying tongue fits and stuff like that. Behave yourselves. If they were given the opportunity, well, the fighter's supposed to say, no, it's alright. When the Lee Purdy got that phone call, did he say, nah, you're alright today, I'll leave that? And Gavin Rees got it, I'll leave that. Michael James fighting Cotto, nah, I'll leave that one. Ricky Hatton, Packet, nah, I'll leave that. That's what you want to do. Matthew Macklin, Golovkin, nah, I'll leave it. That's it. It's like, wow, that's you wanting to play against in football, your Real Madrid, your Barca's or whatever. You got to see how good you are, and fighters are a stubborn breed, and they just want to test themselves, and they fear no danger. And Paul Smith is no different than any other fighter across over the world that has been given opportunities to fight for a world title. But to say it's not been done yet, but I'm just saying there's talks of it, and hopefully it can come through. And I just think it'll be fitting for Paul, top amateur, the elder of the Smith brothers, being all over the world, being with some brilliant trainers, Billy Graham, Buddy McGirt, being in the Contender Series, twice British champion. It'd be great for him to be able to fight for a world title and test himself really against Arthur Abraham. And at Coogan, no matter what, the people who call him, they'll be watching it, because it's that type of fight. He could just pull it off. Absolutely.
Well, we hope so. All right, well, listen, Joe Gallagher, thanks for giving IFL TV some of your time.
Yeah, no problem. Cheers, Cougar. I thought it was only a quick one, mate.
20
it was.
20 minutes.
Jesus, that long was it? Yeah,
20 minutes. Yeah, when you start talking.
Right, alright. Well, the point I was just trying to make, no one had to go at the other fighters when they got the opportunities for the world title, and we all went out there, and it was Brits aboard, come on, and everything else. And I'm just like, get off Paul's back. Do you know what I mean? He's there, he's stuck in. Many of fighters would have quit against the Gale, many would have quit against Groves, but do you know what? I put an arm around him, I had belief in him, and some will say he's in the best form of his career now, and I do feel we could do it. So listen, at the end of the day, whether it's from Liverpool or wherever, do you know what I mean, he's British, do you know what I mean, and we're going fighting for a world title, so everyone should just get behind him and go and fly the flag, and let's see, can we do it.
Absolutely. All right, Joe. Thanks for talking to us.
No problem, mate.
And we'll look forward to
tomorrow night.
The North Power show here in Leeds tomorrow night.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks a lot, Coogan.
All right, it's Coogan Cassius with Joe Gallagher for IFL TV. Thank you very much.
Cheers, thank you, mate.